Hello, welcome back to this week's episode of Doctor Who in Review. And it's going to be such an amazing episode because in honor of National Women's Month and International Women's Day, which did pass, we've prepared something pretty special. Actually, we're going to be doing a couple of special shows through the end of March. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be bringing to you and the guests that we're going to bring it to you. So Neisha T. Molchan, and tonight we're joined by Jo at Life Into the West from Diversely Geek, and Irene Gallin, who is new to the show. I am extremely excited because she's also an amazing Whovian with so much experience and knowledge. Yay!
Woohoo!
Is a female conversation today. So while our lovely Louis Lacow is in the always in the background and implemental to the show, he will be not on this conversation today. So we are ready to go. And you know, as always, when we're prepping for the show to start and we're getting ourselves together, we've already gone ahead and had like an hour and a half worth of conversation. Such good stuff has come ahead. So the focus is definitely something that we've been really wanting to bring to you. I have always looked at the Whoniverse as something that is extreme. That's a 360-degree perspective of characters and plot points and story arcs, and a fundamental principle based on the characters who make up the Whoniverse. And then the Doctor's the moving piece of that puzzle. And then we have the companions, etc. So today, I wanted to talk about the female characters who I feel have always stolen the show. In fact, I think that it really extends beyond the companions, but to the whole female character, or rather, also to the non-cis male lead character spectrum, and the pantheon in general, who have shown up on the Doctor Who's timeline since the inception of the show and have really bolstered the story and the entire universe of Doctor Who. So tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about. I know that was a big conversation. So, so welcome to Jo and to Irene.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
Yay!
Yay!
So, big conversation for us to be having. And you know, I mean, I'm a classic Whovian myself, having watched for a long time. Have either of you watched classic Who?
I've seen a few of the classic episodes, but I would definitely confess I'm definitely part of the new Who, starting with number 9 and going forward. That's what I'm more familiar with as opposed to the classic episodes.
Okay.
Same here.
Yeah.
So I'm the in-house classic and new Who. Okay. But the thing is that the way that the Whoniverse goes, you can be a new Whovian and still know about classic Who because they reference those characters and the foundation that they've laid.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I know that you know a lot about, like, for instance, as we were talking about Sarah Jane Smith, there's no way possible for us, you know, to know the new Whoniverse and for it to be like it is without understanding who Sarah Jane was as a companion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I saw her first when she came with David Tennant, when she came back onto the series. But once I saw the episode and I realized she was somebody from his past, I started researching her on Wikipedia and other fan sites to learn more about her. And I didn't even realize that she had such a rich history with the past incarnations of the Doctor. So that was kind of interesting to go about that. So that way it made more sense why the reunion was so more significant in that episode as opposed to other characters that he comes across with.
No, absolutely. Jo?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And one of the better things about in recent years with Doctor Who in the transition periods with showrunners is, you know, we've had the pleasure to be able to explore via BBC America actually classic episodes and the Sarah Jane Chronicles, and then the special the docudrama documenting the creation of Doctor Who in and of itself, and seeing the the female empowerment behind the creation of the show in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit to the very inception of the show. I'm sure that both of you knew that Doctor Who was dreamt up back in the 60s and was led by the first female producer for BBC, who was Verity Lambert, and by an extremely eclectic and multicultural production team. And it was very important to Verity to have a very strong character. So behind the scenes, you have Verity Lambert, who is breaking down barriers and walls, literally, to be able to maintain a very strong decorum and a principle, but a very beautiful scientific-based show, but at the same time to give us a character like Susan, who is her own person. So do either of you have a little bit of background in the beginnings of Doctor Who and how it was created?
Not too much, to be honest. I kind of learned the basics about how he started and what his origin story was. But I'm still kind of picking up the pieces as I go along, or what people who've seen the classic episodes have kind of given me information about what he was like before and how it came to be. But I'm definitely still learning as I go along, but I really love learning more about the history of the show that has gone on for so long and have had so many incarnations and so many history of the characters and the main character with the Doctor himself, about how much he's gone through and how much development has gone through with the series that has gone on for so long. And it's just, I found it astounding, and it's really a lot to take in.
It actually is quite a lot. Verity, for instance, was born in 1935, so she was pretty young. She was about 28, 29 when she started, had worked her way into being able to even be in the production world, which was fairly unheard of at the time. And honestly, she worked her tenure in the Doctor Who BBC world being treated quite less than by the more tenured producers, who always, I would say, looked down on her or treated her in a sense as a gopher. When she was working with BBC, she was actually asked to, when she had already gotten the first season off and it was as successful as it was, she was not just asked, but she was told at the end of her first year, hey, we're shipping you out. You're going over to some other country, and we want you to work on this show. And she was like, what do you mean? Didn't I just create this amazing show for you? And that's brought in, at the time, 10 million viewers was a huge accolade. And she was told, well, that's great and all, but you're not married, so you can pick up and leave. And all the other producers are married with children, and they can't. Now, I can't say that wouldn't happen today, but my goodness. Can you just imagine being in those shoes and just scything at the fact that she has to stand up for herself to be able to continue being the showrunner and the producer of the show, because it's what needed to happen. And, she fought that. She fought against the grain. She fought against the other producers who gave her so much guff and treated her as less than. She fought to be able to maintain the scientific integrity, but also this beautiful artistic, creative culture that had not been heard of before. And the biggest part of that came out of all of that are the Daleks. And I say that because the Daleks still today are a character that are so absolutely well-loved and known that my goodness, iconic is not just the word for them. And yet, you know, I mean, it's just crazy to me that they were willing to just ship her out. So I really wanted to highlight that as we begin the conversation today, that we wouldn't have Doctor Who without a Verity Lambert.
That's really interesting to learn. Yeah, because I know there's a lot of stories about female producers and female directors who've gone on that they've done really good work, but they don't get enough credit for it, or there's somebody else takes the credit for them, with, you know, whether it's Disney or other companies. So I think that's really interesting that that Doctor Who started with a woman, and so many good ideas that have lived on in the series was started by a female, and they just blew her off like that. That's really interesting, kind of disheartening at the same time.
No, but then again, that was something that was stemmed to some extent, so there's, you know, in order the show to be able to move on. So she's the front runner and set the precedent for that type of character that you were talking about. So tell me a little bit about how do you feel? So Jo and Irene, I'm gonna go straight in here. What do you think has been the success of the Doctor Who universe in terms of giving us characters who are out of the norm of what we consider to be let's find a good way of saying it, out of the norm. Let's just leave it at that. And how do you think that Doctor Who has brought us a universe that has allowed us to be able to see characters and roles and genders and strengths and skill and talent from a different perspective? So, Jo, you want to go first?
Well, I mean, are we talking about character-wise? I mean, because there's the show with the social impact in general, and then there's, I mean, the characters, and there's so many aspects of Doctor Who, and every aspect of it is exactly what a Time Lord is, which is ever-changing, and non-conforming in every way, because a Time Lord is in its essence, or their essence, kind of all ever-changing, all I don't know, they morph with
That's
the time,
true.
and so it's a, you know,
they're transformative.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting conversation in and of itself, and that we've had already with how, you know, the times change, but at the end of the day, the Doctor is still a Doctor, and we're given characters on top of this amazing one, like, is amazing. It's not even I mean, the Doctor isn't just one character. That's what's astounding to me. I mean, the most astounding fact with the show for me, just because there's no other show where you have the main character as a different character every in how many different seasons now. And the fact that, you know, obviously now we have a female playing the Doctor, where it's giving us a completely different perspective on, you know, a 50-year-old show. It's amazing. That I think in and of itself is something that's never been done, and in and of itself has an immense social impact.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. So let's try and go back to the conversation about the universe and the non-cis male characters. Basically, I feel that we have had the opportunity to delve into a world where gender is really not something that's necessarily the most relevant, the part of a character. What do you think about that? I mean, we have characters who certainly have genders, but sometimes for me, I've always felt like I see, for instance, River Song or Madame Vastra. They're in a female body, but I feel like they're very fluid in terms of their representation and how strong they are and how much they command the screen, and they command with their presence and their intellect.
I would agree with that. And even Captain Jack Harkness, I think is also a really interesting character because he's in a male body, but he's openly said that he's pansexual, that he is open to everything. And I thought that was a really freeing aspect of a character in a very popular TV show that is not very common to have that type of person in the universe, and the Doctor and his companion just roll with it and they just accept it like, oh, okay, that's fine with us. And I love how inclusive the show is, whether it's a female-based character or a male-based character, going with River Song, like you said, and even Bill, who was an openly gay character, and she was just as strong, just as tough, and just as interesting as any of the other characters. Like, they didn't make her less interesting or any less important than the other characters in the universe, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I know before we started recording, we were talking about how sometimes the females were written as plot devices, even though they are still amazing in and of themselves, and they have such depth and amazing qualities and storylines. At the end of the day, in general, they could be seen as having their overall storyline just being a plot device for the Doctor. And what's amazing in recent is that's no longer the case. And even like the thing with Doctor Who is it's the universe. It's supposed to be a place where everything is accepted. Like there's no norm. There's no norm in the entire universe. Like it's supposed to be okay. Hey, Jack Harkness is this person. Cool. Of course, on Earth, there's a little bit of a difference. But when the traversing the universe, there's no reason for there to be that prejudice that we'd have, at least in the same ways as we do on Earth. And while of course there are prejudices in all societies, it's so refreshing to see Doctor Who take on those stories in their social context. And I don't think it has anything to do with the day and age of today, because it's always been like that. And I'm just so happy to have the show like we do right now with Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall at the helm. And it's not to say that the other showrunners haven't done amazing. They definitely have, but to have Jodie Whittaker be the Doctor and have just as strong, if not more so, of a season than in all of Doctor Who, it just goes to show, is a testament to what a character is. There's no norm. The Doctor has never been. It's all about how we perceive it. No one in the universe is of Doctor Who, unless actually stated in text, in script, it is gender conforming to the rules that we have on Earth. It's not like Madame Vostra is considered has ever been. She's called Madame, of course, but we don't know the depths of her race. I believe the Santorans are like completely.
Yep. The males are the nurturers, and
it's completely flipped, and from what we're used to in terms of what we're told is the quote unquote norm. So Doctor Who has, from the beginning of its conception, flipped what we call in society the norm. And while of course there are female characters, mostly usually the female human companions, that fall into the Earth female norm stereotypes, I still love that along the way we've gotten characters from outside of the human universe where we do have that diversity and nonconformity of what is the societal norm on Earth. And I think that's again one of the great testaments to the show.
Absolutely. Madame Vastra and Jenny are so impactful, and they're one of my favorite people in the world. Again, because they may be, like you said, they may be considered female where they are at the moment, but that's not necessarily true where they originally come from. But they are still such badass women and just awesome people. At the same time, it doesn't even register to you that it's not the norm, or they, in certain societies it wouldn't be considered normal. You just think they're really cool people that can do really cool things, and you shouldn't think of it that way. You shouldn't limit them just because of what you see or what they should be doing. And I really like that about them, that they just defy the norms where, in whatever time frame they're in, and just do what they do.
Yeah, like exactly. The fact that it's quote unquote defying norms, like I just love that there's it's crazy to call it a suspension of belief.
Yeah.
But it's basically just what I consider the suspension of disbelief in terms of societal quote unquote norms in Doctor Who, in the Whoniverse, is actually just thinking without boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It's what essentially we should think like, because a suspension of disbelief just means, oh hey, you're taking away like your preconceived stigmas and the notions that you've been taught and grown to learn. Where if you're in a suspension of disbelief of a universe where, well, anything and everything is possible, that is our universe, is it not? It's just a matter of perception. And I know we're kind of just talking on a grand scale here, but of course, if we go down to it and get down to the characters themselves, there are numerous, endless female amazing characters, and obviously the companions, are our favorites. So
Naturally.
yeah, so I'll actually start off with a question here for each of us, who our favorite companions are.
Oh gosh. For me,
yeah, right. That's an easy thing to answer.
That is not an easy question.
We all have a preferred. we all have that one character that we'll always go back to and watch everything from.
For me, Amy was always my favorite. And I know she's not a favorite with some people. But I love the fact that she was one of the companions that met the Doctor as a kid, and he purposely came back into her life later on, and that didn't seem very common. That he would have that type of connection after such a great time, besides Sarah Jane. But I love that she was such a strong, opinionated character, and not in a bad way. Like, she knew what she wanted in her life, and she just went for it. I've had some people discuss how she used people, like she didn't treat Rory well enough, or she didn't treat the Doctor well enough. But I thought she was a genuinely caring person. I mean, she'd gone through some trauma, as anybody else does. But I just loved the fact that she didn't apologize for being the way she was. Like, she had her strong opinions. She did what she wanted to do. She had a goal, and she went for it. And she was okay with that. If nobody wanted to go with her, she went ahead and did it anyway. And for me, that was kind of inspiring, that she was a girl who waited, but at the same time, if something was really important to her, she didn't necessarily wait, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No,
she was a character that was like, well, I'm not sitting here, I'm gonna go. Like,
you don't want to investigate this? I want to do it anyway. Let's go.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's funny that you say, like, well, not in a bad way and being strong and opinionated, because like, doesn't it suck that like our mentality is automatically to say, oh well, not in a bad way for like a female, because
exactly,
that's what's considered the
norm. True.
Like, oh, it's a strong, opinionated female character. That's a normal female human being. Like, how many of us are like that? Are adventurous and would just completely be exactly who Amy was in terms of like her adventurous side and challenging the Doctor. which
yeah, he was like, no, don't go in, it's too dangerous. What do you mean it's too dangerous? You would do this, why can't I do this if you want to do this? She's like, I'm just as capable as going in and investigating something as you. And I love that.
Well, let me just jump in with some classic on this.
Okay.
There's a character named Tegan.
Uh-huh.
Who was with the fourth Doctor leading into the fifth Doctor, and she was a beautiful precursor or pre-runner to a Donna Noble, to an Amy, because she was a character who was just that's it. Tegan was who Tegan was. She was a flight attendant, and opinionated. I'm not quite sure that's the word. She was extremely pragmatic, matter of fact. She knew what she knew. She did what she had to do. And she did what made sense, right? It made sense to her. So therefore, she was she was an empowered character. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not like she got a lot of accolades from the Doctor or positive strokes, but at the same time, she was a valued member of the interaction or whatever the storyline was. And when it was time for her to walk away, she said, I am done, I am walking, and left. There was just that. And that is just a strong personality trait and confidence to be able to just say, it's time, I need to cut my ties, and I'm walking out of here. So I really heartily recommend that you take a little bit of time and get to learn about Tegan. Now
okay.
There you go.
Got homework. Okay.
That really brings into like, well, I don't know if that's your favorite companion, Mom. You kind of just brought that up. Sorry, I don't know, Irene, if you wanted to continue on with Amy. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's funny that you mentioned Donna, because for me it was almost a tie between Amy and Donna, because I loved how Donna challenged the Doctor with some of his decisions. Like she did with the Pompeii episode, for example.
Oh, yes.
She's like, oh, how can you make that decision and be okay with it when you have the chance to at least save even a few people? Wouldn't you take that risk and just do it? And to me, she had the most growth and almost the most tragic end to a companion's run, in my personal opinion, because she had so much growth from kind of a shallow-ish type of woman, and she had the experiences with the Doctor. She grew so much as a person, and she learned so much. And then at the end, she had to have it all taken away, and she reversed into her previous mentality, and it almost didn't seem fair to her with everything that she went through, that she had to go back with that.
Yeah, I mean, Donna Noble is 100% my favorite companion. I can go on forever about her. Most definitely, in my opinion, the most tragic. Actually, my opinions, I tend to just say no. That's just a fact. I'm sorry, but Donna Noble, arguably, I don't even know how you could argue against saying that she had the most tragic ending, because what is more tragic than forgetting everything and having all of that taken away? That is the worst. I'm sorry, death isn't as tragic to me, because you had your time and you lived. But
yeah, and I had that hope with there's a cutscene where they hinted that she did remember, but that's obviously something they didn't go with. And I was like, oh, please let her be able to remember at least something and still be okay. Like that would make me feel so much better if they just had that one little spark of hope that she remembered what she had gone through with the Doctor.
I mean, how awfully ridiculous to write a story where if she remembers she'll be destroyed.
Yeah.
Can't
they figure out a way to bring her back safely? Come on,
the strongest being in all of time and space. Her name resounded through time and space.
Dr. Donna.
Dr. Donna. Literally, planets were named after her. The tale of Dr. Donna has literally rippled throughout all the galaxies. and yet you tell me that this is what you have to do with her character.
I would say, besides Rose, she is, I think, one of the few companions that have made such a big impact. I can't talk. Impact on the Doctor with how he sees things, how he sees the world. I really think he opened his eyes, and just the chemistry between the two of them, and how much I really think she meant a lot to him. And I know it broke the Doctor's heart when he had to do what he had to do. And I really think that definitely was a testament to how much she had done for him, because I really think she changed him a lot, as opposed to some of the other companions that they were cool and they were nice, but they didn't really advance his character or make him change his character, if that makes sense, you know?
Maybe his resolve, maybe his entire being, let's just put it that way.
Well, because
think of it again as you know, the writing was very specifically done in a way that, okay, again, plot devices also,
right,
where the companions were also written specifically to drive the main character, aka the Doctor.
And that's why I liked in the Peter Capaldi episodes where he finally pieces together why he chose that face, and it brought it back to that episode with Donna and what she said to him. So I was like, okay. So that, to me, that solidified her place in his memories about how much she did for him. So I thought that was a really nice callback to her character, even though it wasn't Donna herself, just the memory of her words that still rang with him even in his future incarnations.
Yeah, no, definitely. So with Donna Noble, I mean, of course, there was the chemistry that David Tennant and Catherine Tate have, which is why, you know, literally their chemistry is just so amazing. Their comedy.
Their comedy timing was so great.
Yeah, it's why they're considered a fan favorite duo, and why they still they've had so many projects together since. And they
gosh, their version of Much Ado About Nothing is like gold. Sidebar, but
no, yeah, and they still do
the audio dramas together and everything. Exactly,
and so for me, oh my God, Donna Noble.
Come back to us.
We could make it the Donna Noble show today, because we absolutely knew it was coming, but that is a future show. I am just saying.
I think that would be really interesting if they did spin up with her about if there was a different way for her to still be involved in the universe, even though she doesn't necessarily remember her time with the Doctor.
Talk forever. Exactly. You have that. You totally have that. I will say that I'm sure Catherine would love to come back on the show, because she said it already. She would come back to be able to recollect the character and the not just the relevance or importance of the character, but let's go back to our original topic points that which we highlight and focus on today, which is not just, I mean, it's the fact that we're looking at non-cis male characters throughout the spectrum of the Whoniverse who have literally woven the web of what the Whoniverse is. And so when you look at a character like Donna, and I can say to you, Amy, and I can come back and tell you, look at Romana and look at Tegan, and understand there's an undercurrent of infrastructure that these characters have formed that support what the Doctor is supposed to represent, and the growth and the potential of the Doctor. So once we're looking at that growth and the potential and the journey, for instance, Heaven Sent, oh my God, it is a personification of what I'm talking about. Talk to me about the characters in terms of, without them, that foundation, the Whoniverse wouldn't be like we see it today. That's, I mean, so we have Donna. We totally understand that one for sure. So we talked a little bit about Amy.
My opinion on the companions is they're always a reflection of who the Doctor needs to grow into.
What does he need to learn, and who can help him learn?
Because 10 at different times needed the different things that the companions brought. And let's just go into Martha Badass Jones. Her name is literally Martha Badass Jones for me.
I love it.
I never say her name as anything other than Martha Badass Jones. Anyone
it's funny when you talk about Tegan, how she recognized when she needed to walk away. And Martha kind of had a similar moment when she left. She's like, I am too hung up on you for my own good, so I need to step away. I will come back if you need me, but I need to step away because I think that would be best for both of us if I just, step aside for a little bit. And I thought that was really a brave choice, especially for a female character, to recognize not necessarily what the doctor needed. Well, part of what the doctor needed, but also what she needed.
He needed a kick in the butt. And that was Martha. Also, I'm sorry, but Martha literally, and I will never vibe with the person who hates on a character in general for the most part. Yeah. Specifically the female characters, to pick them apart. Okay, I have my grievances with Rose, and she's pretty much the only lead companion that I do have a grievance with, just literally because of the cheating. Aside from that, and doing stringing Mickey along, like, she's a great, strong, character, of course.
But they wrote her with that ridiculous storyline.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely felt bad for Mickey with the whole thing. Just, I felt bad for the guy.
Yeah,
because I liked Rose with some of the things, but that one hiccup with her choices, I was like, really? It's like, really, dude? And she just kept on.
And also, it was a reflection at the time of the writing, of course, 2005, and it's like, okay, or 2006, thinking that romance was what the main thing that the show needed. And granted, it did its job. It brought in a whole generation of Whovians, and they fell in love, and to this day, they are an intense amount of shippers out there that, are hardcore for this ship. But in terms of, like, the actual character, she's a very strong character, but if you think about in terms of what the companion did for the doctor, where the without their companion, I'd say Rose was way more important for 9.
I would agree with that.
10 would not exist. The doctor actually would have died without Donna and Martha, both of them.
Yeah, and
Clara. So, like, they're in their own realm of badass for me, and they're also, if you think about it, they're all, and then you can definitely bring in Amy in there as well, in terms of having that, like, quote unquote sass that a lot of people don't like, and it's just because they seem stronger than the doctor. But that's the thing is, the doctor's not supposed to be a male dominant character. The doctor is supposed to be this fluid character that has the the flaws and the strengths of the worst and the best of humanity. And that is very much pulled from the companion that the doctor has at the time. If we look at, oh my god, the reason I love this season so much with Jodie Whittaker, and oh my god, with 13, like, the companions are amazing. The companions make the show. Yes. And if you think about it, Yaz, Ryan, and Graham, they all have their own unique individualities that together, their collectiveness fuels the doctor. And it's like, if you go back into each season, the companions in general, because Mickey and Rory also definitely, did their parts. And I know that's another thing. It's like the whole male-centric, also romance-driven storylines kind of drove, like, a wedge where it was like, the doctor and the male doctor and the female companion, and then you had that male companion that was kind of pushed to the side. And that wasn't always a great, I think, message out there, because it really, I think, drove a divisiveness into a community where it's like, there's quote unquote weaker male, like a weaker male, like stereotype or trope.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially with Rory. He was, this lovesick, some could see him as this lovesick puppy dog that, followed Amy around. And then when the doctor showed up, he was, this jealous third wheel guy that he ended up, being drawn in to the group. But even then, it felt like he wasn't being used to his full potential at times, which was a little bit frustrating. And he even pointed out that Amy focused more of her time on the doctor, even when he was right there. So I can agree with that at some times. But I really think both him and Mickey brought a lot to the table, even though they were considered lesser of the male characters. I loved with 13 with the new companions that they seemed to be more on equal footing, that they were a full-fledged gang and everybody was included and everybody was doing something and no one was thought of as more or less important. So I thought that was kind of a nice change they brought with.
It's an equanimous piece of writing.
Exactly.
And this is something that we're not used to. So I believe that this cutting away of gender tropes and character tropes, I believe, was extremely influential, but not everyone understood it, because it is something that no matter how much the writing was trying to empower characters and character building, a lot of times they still went with the trends of what media was telling them would be successful TV. And I could tell you, I'm going to pull it back a second to media and the BBC. And the BBC highly was influenced in their choices for what stories were accepted for Doctor Who by what they thought was classically acceptable and a moneymaker. So that is going back to the classic, and actually that came into New Who as well and did influence, which is a lot of why you saw romanticisms, because romanticisms weren't part of classic Who. They barely existed. You had strong, powerful characters like Sarah Jane, like Tegan, like Romana. And they were their own people and their own beings, but people didn't always identify with them. So, with what you're both talking about right now, why do you think it's been difficult, say maybe in classic and back to to this new season, to be able to identify with these characters who don't meet classic tropes? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's why it was kind of going back to Donna, how it was refreshing that she made it clear that she wasn't interested in a romance with the doctor. Like they both pointed out, no, I just want somebody. I just want
a mate. Sorry,
mate. You just want
you want
mates.
two mates.
Well, I bet you would do so.
I want a mate. So I thought that was really refreshing that both of them agreed, and they clarified so many times that they weren't a couple. They were just like, I was like, no, we're not, no, stop. Ugh.
But then again, like that the reason I love that was because it was showing just how much it is the norm to automatically think man woman
that's where
relationship.
Man and woman, you must be a couple.
But it's so funny that then Doctor Who kind of goes around and reverts back into that trope.
Yeah.
And again, it has to do with the times and the writing, and that's why again I'm so happy.
And marketing, unfortunately.
Marketing. But if you think about it, it also takes being bold. The creators of the show were bold. Mm-hmm. And every creator and director and writer of the show needs to be as bold as the originators of the show were. Mm-hmm. And that's Rod Chibnall and the team that we have currently right now. That's not to say that Davies and Moffat did not do brilliant jobs retrospectively, because they did. But yeah, they definitely fell into the tropes. And that's not even to say that right now Chibnall doesn't fall into tropes as well. There's always going to be tropes because we're human. But the fact that we're at least starting to, and I know gets, considered political or social to make these steps and changes, and it's not. It's just what I was saying earlier, erasing your boundaries of suspension of disbelief. Oh, it's a universe where anything can happen. You mean our own universe, but also it's just.
But the doctor says it constantly. It's part of the fluidity of the doctor's language. The fact that we still don't know the doctor's language. You do realize that the language we hear from the doctor is adapted to the English language because we're humans and he's speaking with us. But we have no clue. And he says it as the he doctor, and now again as Dr. Now, we're constantly reminded.
Well, which is all just the doctor.
Which is all the doctor. No, and I'm saying this for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. I'm making the point because of the conversation that we're having, that no matter what happened, and it had nothing to do with the body that the doctor was in, the language of the doctor, we truly don't understand it yet. 55 years in, and we're still boxing it in to what we consider to be language. Consider to be a norm, a normative.
I love.
And the doctor's constantly telling us, "Oh, you human,
you silly humans, you
silly humans, you."
That's why I love 11. I mean, honestly, all of them. They're all amazing. 900, his moment. I mean, 10 definitely. 11, speaking baby. But oh my God, Capaldi, I think. And again, it is also, it's a testament. Each writer did and showrunner did an amazing job in terms of, they were all progressive and definitely, broke down boundaries and barriers in their own ways, in their own rights. Davies obviously did an amazing job with moving forward. Moffat as well with moving forward. I personally, I love. It was so refreshing to have. To me, like Amy and Rory were wonderful, and I loved 11 with them. But I loved Clara, and a lot of people don't like Clara, but I loved Clara because she was just anything and everything. And I know, and it's not because of her storyline, because her storyline was full of plot holes and inconsistencies. It was just because, honestly, the acting, which is why honestly, in the same tune of 10 and Donna, 12 and Clara, to me, they had that same kind of chemistry in the way that they constantly challenged each other. Mm-hmm. And
yes. Yeah, she blatantly calls him a stupid old man several times, and I think that was kind of awesome that she just called him out and just like, no, you're being dumb. Just
and I consider like
which people didn't want to hear. I'm just going to interject that.
But if you think about Donna, if she had kept her memories and she had kept going with the doctor, I could easily see her being just as stubborn and persistent as Clara was. But then again, Clara is another companion who literally, without her,
there'd be no doctor. But we could say that.
No doctor.
But we could say that literally from time immemorial, from 55 years, the doctor is a compulsive being.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, going back to our conversation about tropes and the cliches. Even with 13 being a female doctor, they have that whole episode with the witch trials, and she's in that time where women really didn't do much, or they weren't valued that much. And she's just doing her thing, giving her opinion, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You're just a city woman." And she literally goes, "Excuse me?" Like for her, it doesn't compute, because where she comes from, nobody questions male or female. If you have an opinion, you go ahead and say it, and no one will judge you otherwise. But in that time, it was not very common for that mindset to have that sort of personality.
100%. And really quickly to definitely add in a character here again with the nonconformity, a shielder, Me.
Yeah.
Was such a
Me. I love Me.
I love Me. And to me, it was so, for myself, it was refreshing to see Clara actually be, she was a very non-conforming character in terms of her, well, sexuality. That was never anything that was defined, and I actually love that because
that's a good point. It's one of those I didn't even realize until somebody pointed out like a couple of moments with what she says, and I was like, oh
yeah, she's 100% like on a spectrum. She's not straight. It's
I had no idea. Like it didn't even factor to me with that.
Me. Me and Clara, because Clara,
both of them, yeah.
Nina, like from the first episode when we saw her and she said something about, oh, my first boyfriend was named Rory. She's like, never mind, it was she was a girl named Nina. Like from the first moment, and then like throughout time, and in her travelings with the Doctor, it's something that's definitely written in there, which is again a testament to the writing at the time. And which is why I loved going from Clara to Bill, where we did have an actual character that was, okay, no, I'm not like thinking about it. I'm not questioning. I know who I am.
Yes.
It was great to have that distinction.
Yeah. And the Doctor just embraces it. Like, she talks about this girl she likes, and he says, go ahead and call her. Like, talk to this chick. Like, get something going. He's just so supportive of that, and I really thought that was really nice.
Because,
that was really cool.
Because if anywhere in the entire galaxy, it's not an issue. There is
right.
The only place that we ever seen, and he keeps saying again, silly humans, you're the only.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, like, why it shouldn't even be.
It shouldn't even be a thing.
It shouldn't be an issue. Like, just do it. You like this person? I don't care who he is. Go for it.
Exactly.
Who he or she is, just do it.
If you think back to like the time with Jack, it's not like Doctor never disapproved of Jack's flings. It was just that he was just insatiable.
It's like you were incorrigible and you were kind of arrogant, but I love you anyway. Just you do you. Also, I don't care.
The Doctor themselves is fluid in every sense of the spectrum, and every sense of the spectrum, and that has been written since the beginning. And I'm sorry that people
just didn't
put
recognize
their own stigma and their own boundary in it's again, and it's crazy that we have to call it a suspension of disbelief, because it's not. It's just
it shouldn't be as surprising as it is to us. Like it's like I try not to be closed-minded, but when I explain so many characters, or I try to describe situations to some people who are not that familiar with the show, and they get that confused look on their face, I'm like, really? It's like, okay.
We can have an episode where a dude is in love with a slab of concrete.
Right.
Like, is it really something that grinds your gears?
Isn't that big of a deal? Really?
Like, really? I don't. How is it too much of
right?
Yeah, how is it too much of a suspension of your that you can't have something that's actually part of a human existence versus a slab of concrete?
But it's a rock. I know it's a rock.
But the being that embodies that's infused into that piece of concrete, I love. So therefore, I don't see the piece of concrete. I see the being.
I see the person.
Concrete. Okay, no, but come on, it's concrete. That requires suspension of disbelief.
Yes, you're so correct.
Having a relationship with another human of any identity does not require suspension of disbelief.
Going back to Man and Buster, I thought was really funny. I can't remember which specific episode it was, but
Lizard being from
maybe it was the Crimson Horror episode. She's this great detective, and this guy comes up to her. He's like, "Yeah, they say you're the great detective. I never thought it would be." And he lifts up her veil, and he sees her face, and the first thing out of his mouth is a woman.
Exactly.
It's like
not that she's a lizard.
Not a lizard, not like a green-scaled lady, but just a woman.
Yeah.
That's what freaked him out.
God help me.
Which I love. Like, that was, again, a great piece of writing. Thinking back to them great pieces of writing, that whole the Paternoster game with Strax and that whole that was
Strax.
Just such a great dynamic of nonconformity. And they were all so amazing.
Such a good team. Oh.
I'm a lizard being from the beginning of time, and this is my wife, or something like that.
Is this your wife?
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, no, I'm not her servant. We're married.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Just their relationship alone, and then the relationship that the Paternoster gang has is such a beautiful stringing of character and personality perspectives that are just completely blowing away what we consider to be the norm.
I consider Strax their child.
Yeah, they conform to
totally
particular. Yeah, that's so good. I love that, Joe. Oh my god,
that's a good one.
but they conform to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They conform to nothing
because there is no adherence to adhere to. Like there's
no. It's like they are what they are, and they don't apologize. They don't have to explain. It's like, nope. This is what it is.
Except once in a while, we have to remind Strax not to kill things. But other than that, we're good.
Yeah, and
cut back on the sugar and don't go and just go play with your grenades.
Exactly. Well, he's a lizard, so of course, like
she drinks blood.
There's reasonable things to say. Okay, let's keep that in check. Where there's other things that it's like, okay, no, this is just who we are. Like, well, what's the deal? Oh my gosh.
With Madame Vesper, even that conversation she has with Clara, right after the doctor changes, and they're talking about, why do you think the doctor portrays himself as this young, handsome man? Because he's going to fit in more, and that's exactly what you went for. And she's like, wait a minute, how dare you? It's like, no. She just calls her out on it. It's like, just because maybe you think I'm attractive, and don't think I think the same way. And Jenny's just like, woo, yes, queen.
Yes, queen.
I love it.
Queer eye.
Yeah, and it's oh my god, I'm and bringing it into even today, and well, at least with this season. And one of the things that I love the most about this season, and it's not about having like a ship or a relationship, it's just that it's something that's so natural, and it's not ever pointed out. It's not something that's crazy and made a big scene of. But like Yaz's mom is like, wait, are you two a thing? Like, are you two seeing each other? And the doctor's like, well, I know.
Are we?
Like, and Yaz is like,
that's okay. I'm cool with it if you're cool with it. Like, what?
Like, and no one, it's not something that, it is what it is. And that's why I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, sorry. I love
Yeah, but this current season, I just love that, again, it's not just one companion, it's multiple companions, and they have such a great units, and they're such a great team. And that whole one of my favorite sidebar again, one of my favorite movies is Lilo and Stitch, and it's the fact of Ohana, that you can create and you can find and make your own family from anywhere, and they will be just as important and just as impactful in your life as anybody you're related to by blood. And I just love that. I definitely felt like that was kind of an aspect it brought to this current season.
Yeah, and honestly, and I think that was a long overdue dynamic that we needed, was this whole family unit. Fam.
But wait, they had fam with 4 and moving into 5. No, they even had it starting with 3.
Well, overdue, yes.
But what happened was, it was such a different dynamic that the fandom didn't actually know how to accept, because you had Nyssa and Tegan and Aldrich, and you had these beautiful characters who were very strong in terms of who they were. Nyssa's an alien coming in. Nyssa's being I really want you to look up some of these characters. So Nyssa was, I'm going to bring this back, okay? She was a beautiful character who's the daughter of this leader from another planet, and the master brainwashes her and then takes the face of her father. It's a strong story of abuse, okay? And it really was a very huge stretch for, I think, the fandom to try and really grasp onto the dynamic of her and the Master and the companions that were in the TARDIS at the time. But if you took that entire story and you transformed it to now, and you took it and you translated it now, I feel like it would be probably better received, because we have a generation who's openly willing to listen to some things. But at the same time, I think that those stories did well at the time. It's kind of interesting, and I'm saying this because we had strong characters, but they kept trying to do, put them in oppressive situations. Does that make sense? But I really want you guys to go back and look at some of the history of classic, because I really want to talk about how there has been a beautiful change in that language, and how you're talking about the new companions now and this dynamic, how, as compared to then, how different it is now, and what is the fandom ready and willing to accept.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always been reflective of the time, and I think only in recent has it been transcending what it means to be reflective of the time in a way. Well, I mean, it's Doctor Who. Time is relative. It's a wibbly wobbly timey wimey. It just made me think. The only classic Who I really know is more so with Seven. And if you watch that season, it's in the 90s, and you watch it and you're like, this is the 90s. This is 100% the 90s. Is it Jo, right? Yeah, and I remember the only reason I got interested in the characters because I'm Jo. So, and it just like I don't know, up until that point how we had like that young of a companion just on her own.
Well, you had Ace. Ace was
17. Ace. Yes.
Okay, I was like, who are you talking about?
Sorry, I mean Ace. Yeah, no, Ace is Ace is badass. Ace is just like a punk in
she
the
was
90s.
A punk. It's literally what she was.
Like,
with Sylvester McCoy, and it was like this, Ace, stop beating up on things.
Yeah, like, if you think...
Pull out the bat and hit things,
Like people...
It was great. I loved it.
People think, like, oh, Donna and Martha were too... like strong or I don't know, opinionated. Like, go back and watch freaking Ace. She just would beat up on things with her bat, right? She just had a bat and she would just beat up a dog with a bat. Like,
do you want to hit him with a stick? Dude, you cannot hit him with a stick.
Yeah, it was like, Ace, as much as I love you and I love that you're doing this, I'm not sure that the bat's gonna work. And she's like, but I'm gonna try anyway. I'm gonna try anyway. You just sure it's not me. Because Ace was a character that was constantly being told, oh no, you need to wait, you need to go, you need to stay in the room, you need to, and she'd be like, Doctor, do you know who I am? Do you know who you're talking to?
You don't know me.
And it would be just like, I'm going because this is who I am. And that was the interesting thing, because that was a beautiful... Although the Doctor, unfortunately, because of character writing and character building, until the fifth and until the sixth Doctor, we did not have the Doctor recognizing the strengths, the value, the validity, the relevance of these characters. It took until we started to get into the seventh Doctor, and of course it's a new Who. So part of it, again, had to do with the writing. Of course, that was not recognizing that fluidity that was created from the very beginning by Verity Lambert. You know what I'm saying? And of course, time and age change everything. So here we are in 2019, and I'm excited for this new generation of Who. And I'm very happy, as you guys have both pointed out, that we have so much greatness going on with it. I would love your closing thoughts as we wrap, because I know we have a lot to talk about. It's just been so much going on. Oh my God, it was so good.
One quote that we were talking about earlier, and I swear this must be a meme somewhere, or it should be, behind every great Doctor is an even greater companion. is a philosophy I really embraced with watching the show. Because the doctors are really great. They're, it's all about the doctor, but a lot of their growth and their experiences and what they take comes from their time with their companions. Like, there's so much of an impact these companions make on their lives, on their decisions. So I think without the companions, the doctor wouldn't be as strong. If the series was just about the doctor, as that didn't travel with anybody, it was just the doctor having his or her own adventures, I think it would be kind of different if it weren't for the companions and all the female characters on the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I would bring it back to kind of where we started. And yeah, the Doctor wouldn't be, like, Doctor Who would be nothing without all of the females and women and gender non-conforming characters, or honestly, the Doctor themselves now being in a female body. It's been a long road, and I think obviously it honestly all comes back to Verity Lambert, because without that initial concept of the Doctor being this fluid character, that really paved the way for this whole show. And I'm sure many other forms of media out there that at the time there weren't exactly many fluid characters that were accepted or being made. And I could rant forever about our favorite companions, and that'll have to be another show. But just Donna Noble, Martha Bettis Jones, I know for a fact, like, they influenced me in greatly, and I'm sure Doctor Who, the females of Doctor Who, have influenced everyone out there, not just females, everyone out there. And I just think that's, again, a testament to these amazing characters.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you're talking about something that was written in the 60s, and with the time that of revolution and revelation, it made sense that this show was a point of light to be able to create something, right? To start to be a beacon, to create a movement. And whether it wanted to be or not, I believe that the Whoniverse became a social movement. And the writing didn't always follow or fall in line with that type of purpose or that message, but yet somehow or the other, in spite of itself, it always managed to move the Doctor along towards that place, towards a progress of maintaining fluidity, if not being more fluid. Although there were times that the Doctor became very indoctrinated, and that may have had a lot to do with the writing. But the companions, it's what we made of them. It's something I like to say. I like to say that we are creatures of the language that we box ourselves into. Our perspectives, our perceptions, our dreams, our imaginings are as limited as the language that we speak and the words that we speak. If we allow ourselves to be able to learn on the languages, then our visual imagery, our auditory imagery, our senses will open up. And I believe that that's something that Doctor Who and the Whoniverse presents to us. And as we move into the newer generation of Who, especially from RTD and going on, we're getting that opportunity because we're having characters that give us the option to be able to hear through a different language, if that makes sense, to be able to linguistically change our perspective, our perception, our our own personal indoctrinations, and then to be able to accept the strengths, our own strengths. And I believe that that's what the characters and the world building of Doctor Who has given us from the beginning, whether it's the companions who, for me, are just absolutely just brilliant, or the other characters who support the story. They give us an opportunity to be able to see ourselves in our own world in a different way. And the female character leads, for me, without them, there would be no universe. We know this. And as someone said, I dare you to deny it, because you can deny it all you want to, but it's impossible. And it's like a colander. That denial is going to fall straight through the bottom, and leak right out, because it's impossible. So I want to thank Verity Lambert, wherever she is, for giving us something that has been so important in my life. And I would dare say in the life of Jo, and even Irene, and our wonderful Lewis, who's doing production today, and to the entire Whoniverse and the Who fandom. And thank you both for being on the show today. Thank you so much for being part of such an important, and I would say maybe generationally life-altering conversation, as we continue to bring more of a highlight to the Whoniverse and how it is a cultural phenomenon, how it affects cultural change, and how much it has taught us as generations of Whovians to be stronger in who we are, to believe in ourselves, and to believe in our own importance and relevance in this world. So thank you so much to Irene and to Jo for being on today. Hello? Did I lose you?
Oh, nope, I'm here. Hey! No, thank you for having me. I was really excited to be here and contribute to this really great conversation.
Yeah, it was such a good conversation. My God, it could have just kept going. So good. Oh, my God. So, Irene, you want to tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do?
Yeah, I am on the board for Actors Reaching Out. We are a local 501c3 nonprofit theatrical organization that uses theater to promote literacy and community outreach. So we recently just have been working with local libraries and a couple of the local schools to bring stories and original shows based on literature to bring in material and shows to give them opportunities to see performances and live theater when they wouldn't necessarily be able to get that opportunity. So that's our bread and butter right now. So we've been having a real blast with that. So,
I can't wait for us to work with you. I think we're going to have a lot of projects brewing. And where can we find information about the organization?
We are on Facebook, Actors Reaching Out, and our website is www.actorsreachingout.org. And that has links to all our social media and our current projects, and you can learn about the history of your organization there as well.
Awesome. And anything else that you have coming up presently within the next month or so?
Yeah, we are currently working on a play based on the works of Shel Silverstein, who wrote a lot of poetry in The Giving Tree. We're doing performances there at the Nature Fest at Lake Louisa Nature Park at the end of March. And then the week after Earth Day in April, on the 27th, we'll be doing the same show at the Tibet Butler Nature Preserve as well. So we'll be doing our show, and then at least at Tibet Butler, we'll be helping out with a nature hike to teach them more about nature and the trees and all the wildlife there. So we're really looking forward to getting that started.
Oh, we totally need to be involved with that. That's just unbelievable. It sounds amazing. Okay, so really happy, and I know we'll be on future shows together, which is
absolutely.
This is going to be awesome too. You and I have some conversations to be having about the MCU. That's
yes
coming up soon.
yeah, baby.
Coming up. So okay, so Joe at Life into the West, you want to let us know a little bit about what you do?
I mean,
I know the answer, but you can still tell people.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just sign up in terms of from Diversely Geek. I mean, if you found our podcast amazing, yay, awesome. I hope you follow us. If you don't know if you follow us, or if you don't follow us, or if you do, still go to our website, diverselygeek.org. Keep up to date with our articles and information there. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/diverselygeek. We also have a Facebook group, Diversity Geek Discussions, that you can find through our Facebook page, where you can engage in discussions like we do here on our podcast. You can give us some ideas if you want us to talk about something that you like, or if you just want to share nerdy things. You're most welcome to do that in there. And then we also have our Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all the social medias. Just look up Diversity Geek. You'll find us all of the lovely places. And then, of course, YouTube. We have our Diversity Geek Discussions series up on there, and our podcast, some of them up there as well. But just make sure that you definitely follow us. The support means the world to us, and thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And if you ever want to be a guest star, or if you wanted to join the discussion, send us a message. We have our email that you can email us through, or you can just message us through any of our social media outlets, and we'll be more than happy to engage with you.
Okay, and we're going to be signing off from tonight's episode. This is Neisha T. Mulgen, your co-host for Doctor Who in Review, and thank you again to our great, absolutely fantastic guests for the night. And just remember that Doctor Who in Review is now located on the Diversely Geek podcast sites on Spreaker, and you will need to resubscribe if you've subscribed in the past on the other site, which was on Man Bites Media. Just resubscribe and you'll be able to jump right back over and to continue listening. And we are so happy to have you, and thank you so much for being here for us. And I'm going to give you a wonderful love to everybody, and can't wait to have you join us for our next show. Good night from Doctor Who in Review.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.